Hello, and thanks for watching this video. And this video is titled Astrophotography with a DSLR camera and without a star tracker. So you might think, hey, that's kind of odd. I know you can take a regular photos with a camera, one-shot photos, but the photos don't come out very well. So I had this problem. I'd taken a photo of the Orion Nebula with I think a long telephoto lens, and first time I thought, hey, that's pretty cool. I can actually see that and take a picture of it. But then I saw these photos in magazines or online or on YouTube, and other people were taking, and I said, well, hey, I'd like to get a little better images, and I didn't want to invest in a star tracker at the time. I do have one now, but then I ran across a video by a guy named Forrest Tanaka, and the video was called Astrophotography Without a Star Tracker. And it was like dated or published on February 23rd, 2012. So you might want to take a look at that. I'll have the link in the description below. But he was taking pictures of the Andromeda galaxy, and I was kind of impressed. And hey, wow, he could actually do that without a star tracker. What's the procedure? How do you go about doing that? So I went ahead and tried that, and I tried it on the Andromeda galaxy first, just like he did. I also did it for the Orion Nebula and also the Pleiades. So I think the pictures came out well, or better than I expected, considering I didn't use a star tracker, and I just used regular equipment that I already had. And I'm a photographer, so I already had a tripod, I already had the camera, and I already had a lens. I said, well, let me give this a shot. So here's what the equipment that you will need. You'll need a DSLR camera, preferably. One that has live view on the back, and we'll get into that, why that's important. You also need some type of camera lens. Some people use 50 millimeters, although you won't be able to zoom in very much. The lens I have, which I already had, this is a Tamron 70 to 200 millimeter f2.8 lens. So I use this lens at 200 millimeters, and this is a Nikon D7500 camera. It's APS-C. So it has a 1.5 crop factor, which is helpful because at 200 millimeters, I really actually get an effective focal length of 300 millimeters because I multiply 200 by 1.5, so I can actually get more reach than if I just used a full frame camera. And then at f2.8 is a fast lens, they call it, so it lets in a lot more light. So that can be kind of a limiting factor. If you want to do this type of photography, you probably need at least an f4 or a number that's smaller than that, because you're going to have to use high shutter speeds, and we'll get into the reason for that. Of course, you're going to need a tripod, and don't use a cheap, flimsy tripod because you're going to be taking a lot of pictures. And you don't want everything to be vibrating, because then that's going to make the pictures blurry. And speaking of trying not to make the pictures blurry, you're going to need a remote shutter release, something that you can actuate the shutter without pressing the button, because you don't want to press a button on the camera. That's going to cause camera shake and make the pictures come out blurry. So you need a remote shutter release. You can have one that plugs into the camera like this, or they do make some that are like remote shutter releases, battery, remote control. Other things that I found that were handy that I would recommend that you get, and this is a red light headlamp. because when you're outside, you're looking up at the sky and the stars. You want to make sure if you use white light, your night vision is going to be kind of messed up. It's going to take a while for your eyes to adjust. So I went to Academy. I just got this. This was only 20 bucks. It's called a Coast. It's the brand FL19 LED headlamp. So I got to press this a couple times. They have white light on it. But here you can see it has a red light. So I just press the button until this comes on, put it on my head, and then I can use this and walk around. I can look at the buttons on the camera to set those. If I need to have something I need to read, piece of paper, if I need to go back to the car or get something, I'll have this on and it won't interfere with my night vision. And two, I have both hands free, so I can adjust things with. And so for 20 bucks, I think that's a very cheap investment. I've also used this around the house for regular house activities. I had to go outside one night and check something outside the house, so I just used this. The next issue I want to bring up is you're going to have to know where to find certain things that are in the night sky, and I'll get into that in just a minute, resources you can use. But the thing is, if I have my camera here, this is on a kind of ball, so yeah, I can move this camera around very easily. I can point it any direction, depending on where this is here. Can also point pretty much straight up and down. If I get it here, I'd have to rotate it, but you can see up and down. But the thing is, I have to point this to where I want the object that I want to view or take pictures of. And the problem is, I can see the object in the sky, but pointing my camera, I don't really know how close it is. I can look in the you can look in the viewfinder, but that's kind of a hassle. So like I said, you really need a camera that has live view. So if I can turn the camera on, if you can see that, and I press live view, so at least here on the back, then as I move the camera, I can see up in the sky what it looks like and kind of where it's pointing to. But the problem that you run into is you're still trying to hunt down the item in the sky, and like Andromeda Galaxy. You can sometimes see it. I know a lot of times I looked for it, it's not really visible, so I had to kind of use some star maps. I knew general area where it was, and then I had to kind of point my camera there. But again, pointing your camera to an area in the sky that's far away, you don't really know if you're near or close by. So I looked online, watching some YouTube videos, and saw one guy, and actually I thought of this before I watched the video, but he also had done this, and he had used a laser pointer. And they make these, this is a green laser pointer. They make these for astronomy purposes. So this is a green laser. I'll point it toward the back. See that? So what I wanted to do, I said, well, I need to, if I can put this on my camera, at least I can kind of know roughly where the lens is pointing to in the sky. But the question was, how do I mount this on the camera? And this is a specific laser I bought off of Amazon. It's the Higoo green laser scope sight. It was $26.90. So I'm into astronomy anyway, so I can use this. And the thing I read about lasers is that it seems like they are legal to use, but if a plane is flying by or something, make sure you turn it off. And apparently they're limited to certain classifications. the description said this was fell within the allowable classification. I'm assuming that was correct on the description, but it's a class 3A. The output power is less than 5 milliwatts in a certain range. So, and it's kind of bullet shaped, and the thing I like, you press the button and the light stays on. I bought another laser that press the button, I just had to keep my finger on it. If I let off, the light would go off, so I didn't really like that. But then I thought, well, how do I mount this on the camera? So I'll give the link. I don't remember the name, but I think this, well, I'll look it up, but I got, this is like a microphone holder that people use like when they sing and use microphones. So, and it came in a kit where one was a regular microphone holder for a regular microphone stand, but they also had this piece on there which has the hotshoe adapter. So this just slides into the hotshoe of the camera with the screw. I can screw it down, and actually this laser fits in here very well. It snaps in and it doesn't move. Then I can attach the laser to the camera, screw that down. Then I turn on the live view, and then I have to kind of move the laser up and down to get the green point of light centered right in the center of the live view screen. I kind of maybe have to turn the laser a little bit side to side, up and down. So that way now I know when I'm looking in the sky, the laser is pointing, and I can know exactly where the laser is pointing. I know that's exactly where the camera is pointing to. So that, to me, that's something I couldn't do without. It'd be too difficult to do it without that. The next thing, I guess, is you need to get an app on your phone. And I went to the app store, and the best app, personally for me, that I use is called Sky Guide. Sky Guide. So that's an app. I don't remember if it was free, or if not, it's only just a couple bucks, but it's pretty cool because then you turn the app on, you input your, I guess you can just use your GPS positioning of your phone. It'll tell the phone, where the phone is located at, and then you hold your phone up to the sky, and it'll show you all the constellations, where all the different things are. So you want to find Andromeda, you just move your phone, and you see where Andromeda is at, so you kind of know, hey, I need to point here. You can see some main stars or certain landmarks in the sky, maybe how far it is from the Big Dipper or the Little Dipper or other landmarks in the sky. So then I just move the camera with the laser pointer in that area, and it may help to use a smaller focal length at first. So maybe instead of being at 200 millimeters, I may turn this down to 70 so I get a larger field of view. Then I take a picture, and if I see it, then I can try to center the object. Then I increase the focal length to 200 millimeters and then focus the object in the center of the screen. So I think Sky Guide, or I think Stellarium, or some other phone apps are something that you're going to need to locate the item in the sky. There's also a website called Night Sky Maps, and every month they have a map that you can print out of the night sky, and it just shows you, what's the possibilities of things you can see. And this is a good thing to print out and just take with you. It gives you some different constellations and where things are. It does have, like, say, Andromeda Galaxy on here, so you can take this with you, study that. Also, found two books that I used that I found were very helpful, and I'm not getting paid by any of these people. I just found them helpful for me, as a kind of a beginner. One, the question is, say, what is out there, what can I see, and where is it at? So the first book I got is called the Astrophotographer's Guidebook, a seasonal guide to the best DSLR astrophotography targets. And this is put out by, I guess, a husband and wife team called the Galactic Hunter. And they have a YouTube channel, which is very interesting. It's Antoine and Dahlia Grellin. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. But they have, this book is divided into things you can see by season: spring, summer, winter, and fall. And it's very good. It lists the item, the name, a description, like pictures of what you can see, what you can take pictures of, and gives you a map of the constellation and where in that constellation the item is. They use, they don't use this method to take these pictures, so don't maybe expect that your pictures are going to turn out like these, because they're using a camera attached to a telescope, and I think they also use auto guiding, so they can get very long exposure times. With this method, it's very short exposure times. The other book that I got is called 50 Best Astrophotography Targets for Beginners by Alan Hall. And I found this book to be very interesting. And I think he lives in Texas, where I do. But this book kind of lists a lot of different items, starting in the beginning of the year and progressing throughout the end of the year, what you can see. And he also gives pictures of what it looks like when he took after the object was processed. We'll get into that. Kind of the size that it'll look like if you're using a telescope, that really doesn't apply, but information about the object and kind of what it's going to look like on your screen when you take the picture, because what it looks like on the screen is not really going to be what it's going to look like once you process the image, because what it looks like on the screen may not look like much. Also, there's some good YouTube videos out there. And of course, YouTube is a good source, and I probably looked at almost all the YouTube videos I could find, but a couple of the sites that I found interesting were one, like I mentioned, Galactic Hunter. There's another young man called Astroaddict, Astroaddict. There's also Astro Backyard. He's very popular. And so just look on YouTube. Again, a lot of these people, though, use cameras attached to telescopes, and a lot of them use auto guiding, which is a whole different area, and it's something I don't do and I don't have. And then finally, on this section, I wanted to wrap up. There's also a article that I found online that's called DSLR Astrophotography Untracked. And it's by Erwin Mattis and Carolyn Mrazek. And it's at www.project/nightflight.net. And they kind of go into the basics of doing DSLR astrophotography without a tracker, just like what I'm talking here. So I'll have the link there, but you might want to go in and kind of read and look at that article. I found it pretty interesting, because it's really not very much, there's not very much information out there about doing this type of thing, because everybody usually uses we call it tracking mount. And there are some very inexpensive tracking mounts out there by Ioptron, like the Skyguider Pro is one of the best I've heard, and maybe Fornax makes one which is a little bit more expensive. The Skyguider Pro is about $450 or $500. The Fornax is maybe about twice that much. So you can mount your camera on one of these tracking mounts, and then it'll move with the sky so you won't get star trailing. But if you don't have that or have the money to invest, at least you can give this a shot.